Hello, and here's your weekly update on the top money stories from the last 7 days. This week, I'm joined by financial educator and blogger Charlotte Jessop, who runs the Looking After Your Pennies website and social media channels. Some of the big stories we're talking about today include some great news for people who have been struggling with repaying their debts. News on Amazon again and what they're not doing when it comes to their tax. Plus some updates from American Express on their cashback card rates. They're dropping them in some places and much more. Hope you enjoy. Charlotte, thank you so much for coming on to Cash Chats, helping me have a look at the big money stories from the last week. How are you? Everything going well? Everything good?
Yeah, thank you for having me. Yeah, all good in my world. Same old, same old.
It is. It is, but hopefully for not too much longer, things starting to kind of slowly sort of open up more and more. So I had my vaccination, was it last week? It's the first one. So hopefully, in a few months, it'll be a whole new world for us to think about. But let's get into the big stories. And there's the main one that I think is really important for us to talk about today is some fantastic news for people who are struggling with debts.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is the introduction of these breathing spaces. So there are two types that have been introduced. There's a kind of standard one, which gives a 60-day window for anybody who is struggling with their debt. And there's also one for people who are maybe suffering with their mental health. And what it does is it literally gives them that breathing space, puts a pause on like interest payments and fines and, all those slightly threatening letters and people chasing you up, and gives you time to sort out your debt situation, which I just think is so overdue in this space.
Yeah, I mean, the Treasury has estimated that up to 700,000 people in England and Wales, because it's important, this is just England and Wales. Scotland has its own scheme. Northern Ireland doesn't have anything quite official at the moment. But yeah, that's a huge number of people who might benefit from the scheme in the first year. And like you say, people who are struggling with debt, it just gets worse and worse and worse and worse because all the extra charges are coming on top. So just stopping those extras, or they're making the debts get bigger, just means you can focus on repaying what you owe. Now, there are obviously some important things here that you can't just stop paying, can you? You have to actually go through a process.
No, that's right. So you have to go through like a debt agency. So this is like the National Debt Line or Step Change. We're one of these sort of organizations, and they will talk you through the process and see if you're eligible for this. And actually that's a kind of another good thing that's come out of this, is that to access this, you have to get the support. And that's what these breathing spaces are about. It's about actually giving you the space to get the help. You don't want to just take this break and then 2 months later, 60 days later, whatever it is, you're straight back into the deep end again. There is a support process. So you have to reach out to one of these organizations. They assess, which debts are eligible. And then from there, they will then apply on your behalf and see if you are eligible to have this breathing space, and then they support you after that. So actually there's a whole load of support that goes with this. And I think for a lot of people, that is what is needed. Is just, we can get so caught up in our own personal finance situations that you almost need somebody else to step back and see the bigger picture that's going on with your financial situation and tell you what options are out there. And hopefully that is what is going to happen with these breathing spaces.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned there, obviously, National Debt Line, Step Change, Citizens Advice are really good as well. Basically, don't pay for this. It's a really important thing. If you're someone who's been struggling with debts and thinking, I need help, just even before the breathing spaces, you want to try and get some support with this, do not pay for this advice. You can get it for free from all these places. So make sure you go down that route. And then, as you say, they will create this debt sort of repayment plan between you and the people you owe money to help you, clear that debt over time. And this breathing space is just a lovely little bit extra, particularly because, anyone who had sort of payment holidays during the pandemic, some of them who still have them might see them coming to an end soon, and that might then put extra pressure on other parts of their finances. So this is really, really welcome that we finally got this. It's been a long time coming, a long time. Now,
Absolutely. And it's for so many people, like, debt is just such a massive stress point. Like you can have everything else going on. You can be worrying about things like furlough and your kids going back to school and getting your vaccination. But if in the back of your mind you're worrying about how you're going to pay off the debt, it's it literally just takes that pressure off. It's one less thing to worry about.
It does. And also there's some other good news for people who have been struggling and are struggling because they're on benefits, and some news from BT about some lower tariffs for them.
Yeah, so BT have said that anybody who is on universal credit, I'm not sure if that includes everybody, but that's at least one of the criteria that is being considered, will get a reduced price, like good quality broadband. And this is big because that the internet is no longer a luxury. It's something that we need. Every day, and more so during the pandemic. Like my kids couldn't have done their schoolwork if we didn't have internet access. So this is like a fundamental like resource that we need in our lives now. And for many people, that can feel like an additional burden in their finances. It's like electricity, water, food. We need internet, otherwise the kids can't do their schoolwork, or I can't do my job. So to have BT turn around and go, actually, we are reducing this for the people who in society need it most, is just another fantastic step in the right direction.
It is, isn't it? Money Saving Expert have done a good write-up on this in terms of like who qualifies for it and some of the different deals. So if you are on the basic Home Essentials tariff, this is available from late June. So not just yet, you've got to wait a little while, but you can, existing customers can switch over to this. If you are a new customer, there will be a soft credit check, but nothing near as rigorous as you would have with other kind of new customer deals. But the BT Home Essentials tariff, 36 megabits and 700 minutes of calls, £15 a month. Normally that's about 35 quid with BT, so a decent saving. There's a faster one, which would be 67 megabits for £20 a month, or just landline only and calls for £10 a month. So it's well worth considering all of that, particularly if you're someone who is paying full whack. Now, you're like me, always shopping around, always trying to find that best deal. It's still likely that you will be able to get as good a deal, potentially a better deal, if you take advantage of some of these welcome bonuses. Cashback's always great for that first time you sign up for things. So definitely look at this if you are eligible. Things like universal credit, job seekers allowance, income support, benefits like that. But also, anyone, if you want to save money on your broadband, then you absolutely can.
Yeah, no, this is actually, like, today when we're recording this is the like 1 year anniversary of us moving back into our house. So I'm like, this is like, for me, this is big cashback week. I'm like, going through all, like, changing my home insurance, changing this, changing that. So I'm looking forward to, like those payouts from the cashback sites in like a couple of months when all of this goes through. So
yeah,
definitely worth doing.
Getting those bills down, which I'm like you, I love doing it. Apart from insurance is the only one I hate doing because there's so many terms and conditions. But switching my phone, switching my broadband, switching my energy takes seconds, and you save yourself lots of money, which I love doing. Speaking of cashback, the episode I did of the podcast on Tuesday was looking about how much money people can earn from cashback sites, cashback current accounts, and cashback credit cards. But there's a change. On Wednesday, American Express announced some cuts, didn't they, to two of its popular cards?
Yeah. And so they are reducing the rate of cashback on their platinum cashback cards. There are two versions of this. I have one of them, which I think is the platinum cashback. And it's also is it platinum cashback everyday card?
Yeah, they make the naming of their cards is always gets me sort of tongue tied when I'm doing my videos and podcasts. It's like, hang on, which way round do I put this word here, there? But yeah, it's the platinum cashback and the platinum cashback everyday card.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So like they could just name them like number 1, number 2 or something like that. That would be useful to us. But yeah, so they're reducing the rate of cashback, and it's kind of tiered, because there are rules at the moment that you have to earn a certain amount or use it a certain amount and then you qualify. So I was on your website, Andy, and you have a great table that shows all of this information. But yeah, this is, I think, in my situation, this is probably going to mean us losing about, 25 to like £30 a year, which isn't huge, but it was money that I was enjoying earning for just carrying on with my life.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's, I think, roughly, depending on how much you spend, it's about 25 quid depending on each card that you'll be down in a year. And I wouldn't be surprised if this is kind of the start of this with the Amex reward cards. It would seem weird to have these ones, which have been their kind of like top level, pay it back cards, that the other ones don't sort of follow suit and drop down a little bit. So I'm interested to see what happens. Now, these don't come into play until August. So May, June, July, you're still going to earn at the current rates that you've got. But yeah, absolutely. I've got a whole article on the blog people can check out with more details of that. But yeah, it's always one of those things, I'm sure you have the same as a content creator, that you produce something, you put something out there. It doesn't happen very often, but then like the next day or 2 days later, it kind of changes again. You're like, oh, typical. It happened with
you thought you were done. You pressed the publish and then you thought it was done and then you have to go back. But like the finance world does keep you on its toes, and particularly in the current climate, nothing is staying the same for long. There's all sorts of changes in credit cards and banking and this sort of thing. But it is interesting. I've had this particular Amex card for a decade, maybe. And I think it's only really changed once in that time. So it's interesting that it is now changing again, and it'll be interesting to see going forwards if they make any further changes to the costs and what they give back to their customers.
Yeah, I mean, it's still a decent card. It's still one of the best ones out there. Still a lot better than you get with a Visa or a MasterCard. So it's just about whether there's an alternative Amex which might get you more money. And I'll be doing a lot more content on that over the coming weeks. Next story is a really interesting one. I know you've got kids, maybe a bit young for pocket money, but there used to be a teacher, didn't you? So, you've been dealing with kids quite a lot on their kind of spending and saving habits.
Yeah, for my sin.
Yeah, there's been an update to a kind of pocket money index, which a kind of kids savings company called Rooster Money sort of do every quarter. And over the last year, kids are getting more cash, aren't they?
Yeah, like they're getting more pocket money. I don't know whether this is because parents are just incentivizing good behavior a bit more. Like we've been stuck with them a bit. I'll give you another £1 a week if you sit down and let mummy work. But there was also, a statistic that came out of that report that said that kids are being more entrepreneurial as well. Yeah. So they're looking at ways that they can, make money by selling their old toys and, possessions, and also, asking nanny and granddad if they can wash their car or, the next door neighbor, which I personally love to see. I've been encouraging my kids to let go of their toys. And, I will sell it, put it on Facebook or eBay or something like that. And then I put it in their bank accounts. So although my kids aren't quite at the stage where I literally having to pay them directly for their existence, they're indirectly, benefiting from some of these skills I'm trying to teach them around their money. And they're learning that, they can sell this thing and that can go towards the next thing that they're interested in. But yeah, it's really interesting because it seems that as kids, as adults, there's been an increase in the volume of saving that happened during the pandemic, and it's happening to kids as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And so this is the pocket money compared to the first quarter of 2020, the first quarter of 2021. It's gone up by over 40%. So now an average of £7.20 a week, where it was £5.15. So it's a big jump up. But
that's not in line with inflation.
I know, it's not at all, is it? But it's interesting what you were saying there about being more time at home and things. And there was a big stat here as well. Extra chores completed by kids in exchange for money doubled from an average of 1.09 a week to 2.15 a week. So they're doubling the number of chores they're getting paid for. And absolutely, I think that probably is as a result of them. Well, what else am I going to do? Right, I'll do that, but getting paid for it is no bad thing. I actually think incentivizing pocket money is a great way of giving it, rather than just here's a £5, here's a £10, whatever it is. It's like, right, yeah, if you do wash the car, mow the lawn, whatever it might be, then that's kind of, I think, money well spent.
Yeah, I, as a kid, my parents had this setup that I think was actually quite good. So we got like a base rate. So we got like a £2 a week base rate. So we got that whatever happens.
That's guaranteed. Nothing to worry about. Yeah, that's yours.
Yeah, you just have to show up and breathe, and you get £2. So like done. And then there were like jobs available, and we could either do them, there was me and my sister, we could do them together and split the money, or we could take the job on ourselves and take all the money. So me being the oldest and the bossiest one, I usually did all the jobs because I wanted all the money. So, the side hustling started young in me. But yeah, no, I think like I have to earn my money. I have to exchange, my skills, my talents, for cash. So I want to encourage some of that in my kids, but also you don't think there's anything wrong with encouraging kids to be a bit entrepreneurial as well. How else could you make money? What else could you do?
Yeah, absolutely. Did you find, I mean, either at school that kids were kind of quite open about who got what in terms of pocket money, or maybe other sort of, parenting friends? Is this something that people do discuss?
I mean, the schools that I worked at were in fairly affluent areas. So what we tended to find was there was a big divide. So you'd have like a section at the top end where they came from, like leafy suburban, like affluent areas. And then we had, the poorer section on the other end. And it was kind of interesting because kids would come in sometimes and they would have, like £20 notes. Like, oh yeah, my dad gave me this. You'd be like, 20 quid, I've got like £3 for my lunch, like, where are you getting 20 quid from? And that would happen every day. They'd be like, oh yeah, they give me this, for my lunch. I'll get some food on the way home. So I don't think kids were necessarily talking about, like regular allowances, but they would definitely flash the cash if they ever had it. And I don't think they were afraid to like pop to the shop on the way in and get all their mates sweets if they suddenly had like an influx of cash from somewhere. But no, I don't think, I worked with mostly, older kids and the sort of teenagers. And it wasn't really something that we discussed.
Because it's one of those things that obviously can have sort of negative connotations there, that kind of openness amongst kids, because they're feeling that, the pressure because they haven't got the money, or pressure from parents to give more than they can possibly afford. But the reason I asked that is because there was another really interesting story this week on the BBC website, looking at a company in Argentina where they have an open salary system. Not just that everyone knows what everybody earns, which is kind of what lots of people say we should have more broadly, but actually all the staff have to agree on a salary. So it's taken it to that next level. But it's certainly something, I think, that openness about earnings, there are lots of kind of benefits that can come from this, aren't there?
Yeah, it's really interesting. As somebody who, spent a decade working in the public sector on a very much defined pay scale, like you literally were like, how long have you been doing this job? Oh, then you're earning this. There wasn't, there was no need for us to talk about our salaries. We all knew what everybody was earning. So it's quite interesting for me to reflect on that, from the viewpoint of, being in the private sector, and particularly, in the industry that we work in, there's not a lot of openness about that. But I'm not sure how I feel about the idea that maybe my colleagues, I think it would make me be nicer to my colleagues.
Well, that's a good thing then, isn't it? Yeah.
The flip side of that is do you then get these, and it mentioned it in the article that you showed me, that this company found, they were worried that there were going to be almost like these little groups of people that would then, I'm going to support my mates, but not this person. And do you worry about the size of that, group? And then there's people being excluded and penalised. So it's an interesting thing to consider, that sort of openness in not only what you earn, but also who gets to earn it.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite a small company. I think it's less than 100 people, they were saying. So these sort of things can work better when you've got a kind of a much sort of easier amount of people to manage on it and to deal with these decisions. I mean, there's loads more going on. They're like a flat hierarchy system, so there's not even real bosses and stuff. So that's taking it to another level. But I do think the idea, again, of this sort of being companies trying to be more transparent with their pay will try and iron out some of those things you see, such as the gender pay gap, or, again, white employees getting paid more than black employees and things like that. So it's certainly, I think, again, we need to kind of at least get to that level soon if we can. It will absolutely would make a difference. But what was interesting about this Argentinian company as well was that peers would have a conversation. So you'd be in a team and people would get, right, is this person actually more qualified than me? Does this person do more than me or better at this than me? And hopefully, that would give a more transparent reason for them to be paid more. Whereas, if you're working with friends and you share with your mates what you're earning in a job and you're doing exactly the same role, and someone's getting paid more and there's no reason for it, that can sort of obviously breed a little bit of animosity. So if they're part of that decision process and they're really, looking at why someone might earn more than you, that hopefully would work.
Yeah, and I guess it would kind of remove some of the you can get this kind of disparity when new people join a company as well. Like we're like, oh yeah, we want that person, so they end up on this huge salary. And I even saw that in teaching. There would be people and they would make up a role for them, and you're like, well, I'm doing that. Like, what have you called that a thing? That's part of my your job description. Why are they getting paid extra for that? And actually, when you then turn it around and go like, what are they going to be doing? Like, are they doing anything better than I am? Well, then they shouldn't be getting paid more than me. Or if you value it that much and I'm equally as qualified, then why not pay me more for what I'm doing? And I don't know. It sounds like it should work.
Yeah, I think we're still a way to go, but it'd be interesting to see how that develops. Now, one company which does not have a great reputation for how it treats its workers was back in the headlines this week, and that was Amazon. What's been going on with Amazon this week?
Yeah, they've not been paying tax again.
Surprise!
Yeah, I mean, like, I feel like we could have recorded this at any point in the last decade, and this video would have been true. But yeah, it's not good just because you can exploit these, tax loopholes. It's the article, the articles that I've read about this have all basically said they've not paid tax in a time when shops can't open. The high streets have been suffering. We've all been sat at home having stuff primed, directly to our feet, and they've made loads. They've basically exploited the pandemic to their own gain, and now they're not giving back anything to the systems that actually look after their workers and make the market that they exist in possible. And it's not good, is it?
No. This is the European sales for 2020. Basically, that's the UK, France, Germany, Italy, Netherlands, Poland, Spain, and Sweden. And they're all basically go towards all the profits, all the sales income go towards Amazon Europe, which is based in Luxembourg, which is is a tiny country, but obviously has quite friendly tax rules. So 44 billion euros of sales in 2020 across all those different markets, but no corporation tax paid. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous, isn't it? That this can happen. Now they will be paying bits in different places and different areas for some parts, but in terms of the actual sales, those big sales, it's absolutely ridiculous. And obviously, I've talked about this a lot on the podcast, covered sort of specifically in particular episodes as well. This sort of hope that there could be some sort of digital sales tax that will a windfall tax on the big companies, those fintech companies. Or potentially now, Joe Biden's trying to lead a sort of a worldwide effort, so everyone kind of toes the line. But we know not everyone's keen on that. Places like Ireland and no doubt Luxembourg won't be keen to sort of join in on that. It just another reason why I think people just think twice about buying from Amazon. We've spoken on your Instagram interview, didn't we, on your channel earlier this year about my year without Amazon, and I'm still doing that. It's been going much easier than I ever possibly thought it would do. I thought I would struggle. I thought there would be things like, I need to get this, I need to get that. And I've not missed it at all. And I'm actually saving money every single month in two ways. The things I'm buying, I'm actually finding them for less than they are on Amazon.
Amazon's not the cheapest place.
It can be, don't get me wrong, it absolutely can be. And often it's about timing when you want to get something. But that's part of the danger as well, is the other part of it is I'm not buying things that I would have bought before, just generally. Obviously demonstrate that I didn't actually need it.
Yes,
because you would go on Amazon, you'd see a discount, and because of that discount, that deal, that offer on that day or that price, you'd snap it up. But I've not been doing that either. So it's interesting to see how this one. I'm obviously invested in what happens here, and hopefully we can get something this year that will try and even out the disparity, and not just Amazon, the likes of Google and Facebook as well. But really would encourage people to think about reducing, if not cutting out, Amazon spending, and see what they can do.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and you've got to, it comes down to, you know, putting your money where your morals are, essentially. And they're not paying back. Amazon's not contributing to the NHS. It's not contributing to the upkeep of the roads. You know, it's not supporting, you know, all these, you know, things like statutory maternity pay and all of these things that are going on, that they are basically taking money out of our economy and profiting, keeping it in their own pocket.
Yeah, absolutely. I know one company that is trying to do some good is Ikea, and this is the last story for us to chat about, because they finally launched their buyback scheme that was meant to kick off at some point during the pandemic, maybe a year ago or something, but constantly delayed. It is now live in different Ikea stores. What exactly is this? What can you send back to Ikea?
Well, yeah, see, like, I love this idea in theory. Like, you know, I love IKEA, so, you know, like, literally like a showroom in here. But so the idea behind this was to stop people from throwing away like decent furniture, and to start encouraging people to recycle. IKEA were going to give you a proportion of, you know, the original cost. I think it was like the most you can get is like half, and then it sort of tiers down based on the condition that product is in. And they were going to then resell it in their stores, so that it's encouraging a second hand, you know, culture. Now, there are some rules about this. You know, there are things that you can't do. So it's mostly like furniture, so it has to be furniture, not self-furnishing. So you can't take in your old pillows, or your duvet case or anything like that. All of those things are out. So it's furniture, which means it's probably bigger items, and you have to return them made. Which is it's like, it kind of just defeats the object of it. Like, I get things from IKEA because they come to my house and they're small. Like, even if I go to the shop, they're flat pack, so they fit in my car. And now if I want to return them and, you know, take advantage of this scheme, I have to magically fit them in the car that they didn't fit in the first place.
It's just a massive flaw, isn't it? And it's kind of like, I wrote about this yesterday, or Wednesday when it launched. I wrote it all up. And lots of other places obviously covered it, because it's quite a big news story. And no one's really sort of covered this idea that, you know, they've mentioned, yes, it has to be fully assembled when you return it, and they'll inspect it, and they'll check that it's been assembled to their standards, which means you have to follow the instructions.
That's me out, because I've bodged every like flat pack bit of furniture like
so,
I've ever had.
Any of that, you're out. But like, what IKEA furniture I've got, looking around, I couldn't get it, most of it, into a car. Even like flat pack sometimes is a bit of a stretch, isn't it? But you've got, what are you going to do? Are you going to kind of like get the Allen key out, dismantle it, put it in the car, get to the IKEA car park, build it, put it on a trolley, wheel it in, for them to go like, yes, we'll give you £15 for your Billy bookcase. It's.
I mean, this is gonna be me turning up with like my little tool belt, you know, like whipping it out, like doing it in the car park, and then they go, "Oh, it's scratched on the bottom." It's like, yeah, because I put it together in your car park.
I think it's a lovely idea. I really appreciate any company that's actually trying to actively make a difference right now. But and I think there will be people who have got, you know, because not all IKEA furniture is cheap. Obviously, people often start off buying stuff because it's affordable, but there's still some nice things which do cost more money. So people might be able to get some decent cash back for stuff if it's, you know, in decent condition. But I think for a lot of people, it's not going to be worth the effort and the time and potential costs to hire a van to do this. So be an interesting one to keep an eye on. And the other big thing about it, obviously, is that you get paid in IKEA vouchers. So and I was thinking, oh, that's all right. Well, you can still spread it around the store, and you can, like, you know, for me, those little clips, you know, the clips you get in the food bits. Don't know why we keep running out of them. Like, we're just never enough. We need more of those. And the little lint rollers.
It's tea lights here, and just things like that. Every time I go in, I buy like 100 tea lights.
Where do they go? But you can't use them on the food hall or in the restaurant, so you won't be able to, you know, spend all that money on meatballs and
hot dogs and
pear cider and all those kind of things. But yeah, interesting one to keep an eye on.
And it will be interesting to see if they expand it. I mean, this could be a trial phase, and then they realise that actually, you know, they need to make some tweaks to it. You know, maybe they'll get to the point where they can employ somebody to rebuild your furniture when you drop it off.
Oh, there's a side hustle. Straight off, isn't it? There you go.
I'm
Someone, all
going
you
to
need is a
stand in
van.
IKEA with my Allen key and yeah,
You go
do
around
that.
someone's house, you inspect their IKEA furniture because you get an idea of what IKEA accept. You give them an offer that's less than what IKEA would give them, but then you just take them all there, sell them on mass to IKEA. This is it. As a business, someone will do this.
And then you get
Absolutely,
paid in
someone will.
IKEA vouchers.
Yeah, that's true. Well, then
Yeah.
maybe you. Oh, I don't know. We've not thought this through, have we?
No, we can figure it out.
Charlotte, this has been really good fun. Thank you so much. Some great insight there to the news this week. If people do want to sort of find you online and get more of your content, what are the best places for them to go?
I'm all over the place. I have a website that is lookingafteryourpennies.com. Looking After Your Pennies is my handle on Instagram and TikTok, and you find me on Facebook. And I'm on YouTube as well. So just search for Looking After Your Pennies.
And absolutely, and Charlotte is someone in this sort of the money blogging, money journalist world that we both live in. Someone who has actually managed to make money work on TikTok, and you've got what is it, 50,000 followers now on TikTok?
Yeah, getting there.
Yeah,
closing in on 50,000. So it's been a fun, interesting journey.
It's a different world, but hey, people like it that way. So if you're into TikTok, do check out Charlotte's account. Right, yeah. Thanks so much, mate. See you again soon.
Bye.
If you want to read more about any of the stories that Charlotte and I have just been talking about, head over to becleverwithyourcash.com/cashchats192. And don't forget, I also release this episode on my Cash Chats podcast. So if you haven't listened to that, there are 2 episodes every single week, including the Your Money This Week episode. Then you can download that on all podcasting apps, Apple, Google, Spotify, you name it. Just search for Cash Chats. I'll also link to that up here and below. Until next time, guys, take care. Cheers. And here are a couple more videos you might find interesting.